call George, see if he's okay. I haven't heard from him in a while, but
And
I did
what
call him about a couple of weeks
is Dred going to be with us?
ago. I believe he's going to GAN. He may not be able to make this show.
Okay.
Gan Rev.
And Rev, there's another show.
Gan Rev. No, it's the Gan Review, because Gan is the news.
My bad.
What you
That's
come
true.
on is Gan
That's
Review.
very true. That's very true. That's true. Okay, I'm ready to go if everyone else is. I'm going to start recording on this computer. If you guys can, please open up your chat window so we can talk without talking.
Been there, done that.
Nothing I can do about that.
There we go. I'm ready to begin. Larry, you ready for a 5 count?
Just about.
5.
Okay. I'm ready.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Free Thought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're recording this on Sunday morning, August 14th, 2022. I'm Larry Rhodes, or Doubter 5, and as usual, we have a co-host on the line with us. Wombat, how are you?
Hey, it's me, the Wombat. How's everybody doing?
Well, welcome. And our guests today are John Richards from over in England Way. Hello, John.
Hello.
And we had Texas Sky. Hello and welcome. Digital Free Thought Radio Hour is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religion, religious faiths, gods, holy books, and superstition. And if you think you're the only non-believer in your town, well, you're just not. In Knoxville, here in the middle of the Bible Belt, we have a group of over 1,000 of us. And we'll tell you more about that after the mid-show break. Wombat, what's our topic today?
You have a right to religion, and what good opportunities there are to get access to quality secular religion in
Religion or education?
education. Right here. My bad. You have a right to Jesus. And what paths do we have? We're talking
And the
about
right to
education today,
education.
guys. We're talking about education today. There's 2 things that got me off guard. One, it looks like Sky's on fire. Is there smoke coming behind you? Are you cooking anything, my friend? Or you got like a cigarette?
There is smoke coming from my ashtray.
There it is. There it is. Okay. So when I saw that, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's a message. Anyway, and John Richards, he's got his little tugboat going on right now.
Yeah.
Is that a tugboat or is that like a tour boat? What kind of boat is that?
Yeah, it's a tour boat.
Very, very cool. He got a video of London, and I think it's a great upgrade since last time because
this makes great radio.
This makes great radio. This makes great radio. For all of our radio listeners that we're just gonna embrace.
Yeah, we also put this on YouTube,
internet.
so you can find us on YouTube.
Larry, also catching up with you. Great suspenders, great colored shirt. I can't imagine a better colored shirt. People on the radio are missing out.
Yeah.
How you been, my friend?
I'm doing well. I actually got my motorcycle out yesterday and rode for a couple hours. That was a lot of fun. It's only
Very
81 degrees. It was like perfect weather for it.
Very cool. This weekend I met up with friends when we play disc golf, and we all carry a bag with us and we pick up trash as we go through the park and play. And I figured that's a really cool way. I just cleaned up like 2 large 10-gallon trash bags full of trash that's been around in the local park.
That's awesome.
Here's my 2 thoughts about it. We're part of the community. We want to make sure it looks beautiful, but also, and I don't mean this in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way, but I can spend an hour feeling good sitting down on a church pew, feeling good about myself once a week, or I can actually go out and try to make the community I live in a better place. And I feel like that is, in my opinion, some of the best demonstrations of secular activism, but also just like we probably had some religious people who were out with us when we were picking up trash and playing disc golf. You could, it's not a monopoly in terms of making the world, slightly cleaner or a better place. You can invite people in, but it's a lot better than everybody with a particular dogma sitting down and feeling like
I do that on my motorcycle. As I'm riding along, I'll see a piece of trash, and I'll reach over and grab it. You've seen people do that on horses, right? With handkerchiefs. I do that on my motorcycle.
I'd love to see it. When there's video, then I'm a little
video, or it didn't happen, right?
Video or did it happen?
You have one of those long extended grabbers that you can operate.
I need one, that's for sure.
John Richards, what's going on with you? How you been?
Well, I've been okay, thank you. But the most exciting news is, my co-host, Tercia du Plessis, the South African lady,
Mm.
she visited.
Ooh,
Yeah, she's on
Wow, cool.
holiday. Almost finished her UK holiday, but
That's a long trip.
came and was our house guest for a couple of
Wow.
nights. Yeah, so
wow,
we,
very cool.
we've actually met in reality.
Mm. Okay.
All
well,
right, Al.
how was the meat space meeting? Were you
Sorry?
guys like tapping each other's shoulders? I was like, why isn't he closing? Like, what's going on here? Like, why can't? How do I end this conversation? This is so much easier online. What's going on here?
Well,
How do I resize you?
yeah. I discovered that she is touch sensitive. So
There's a story.
Okay. Sky, checking in on you. I love the shirt. How you been?
Thank you. I'm doing good, doing good. Wrote all night again. Did
Wrote.
a three-part article for my blog.
Cool.
Nice.
Did some research, had a good time. Nice and quiet at night.
Mm.
Very good.
You know, peace is not something we should take for granted. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm looking forward to next week because there's a lot of weird stuff going on at work, but also looking forward to the conversations I'll have with my coworkers about today's show. Because interestingly enough, a lot of the people at my job watch this show. And when I say a lot, it's about maybe 8 people or so, such that when we're done, when I'm done with a week show, say we do a class on like the Surgeon General's warning on the Bible, like that sparked a lot of conversation at work, because afterward they'd be like, hey, I saw that was funny, here's my thoughts on XYZ, this is what I would have said. And it's sort of a hush conversation because we're not all atheists, but it's enough of a multicultural group that likes science that it's an interesting thing when you meet other people who are thinking the same thing you thought you were thinking, but you didn't think because you thought you were the only atheist at your work. So like when you have like this one guy who's like, hey, I'm an atheist, like, oh, I am too, let's be friends. What, you got a radio show? Let me hear about that. Let me at least subscribe to that.
Well,
so hey, go ahead, John Richards.
this is one of the most important aspects of what we do. We're actually putting a human face onto the title atheist and
Right.
showing that we are reasonably normal people and not, immoral, purposeless God haters.
Angry. Yeah. Exactly.
And that needs to be done often and again and again.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
Mm.
Because the reverse is constant.
Right.
The put down's the bad word.
The backflow is always present, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. By the way, Ty, can you throw another baby on the barbecue?
Sure. Let me fix that. Okay. Anyway, there. I think Sky's the one barbecuing. He's got the smoke going on, right?
Mhm.
No, I'm gonna take care of that in a minute.
It's okay. I'm making a smoothie over here.
Yeah. The idea is though, one of the coworkers who listen to the show is homeschooling her daughter. And the homeschool curriculums in Tennessee, something I didn't know, follow a strict curriculum. So you can't just like teach your kid, obviously, a bunch of books and then give them a degree as your parent. You have to follow like a school curriculum. You just do it at home. The problem is the school curriculum that she's following, the biology classes are very steeped in religious dogma. And it tends to be the case that that's how a lot of homeschools curriculums are. And it's why a lot of parents option for homeschool so they don't have to deal with the hard
Evolution
challenges that come with a
Is it
standardized
by any
education.
chance ACE education?
Could you say that again?
Is it by any chance ACE homeschooling, accelerated Christian education?
I don't know. I
don't know.
didn't delve that deep into it. So she did reach out and was just essentially asking me, hey, Tyrone, do you know any resources where I can get like a biology textbook that doesn't talk about the creator or doesn't like obfuscate things with like saying design in the wrong
And
way?
preferably free.
Yeah, that'd be even better. In my head, I was just like, well, I've gone through a lot of biology books and I know some ones to watch out for, like the one that had the panda on the cover.
Yes.
Like there's like there's a really nice history behind that. But when I looked online for like, secular biology books, I thought I'd find like 1,000 entries. Turn out when you put that in, you just get a bunch of non-secular homeschool textbooks for biology that don't talk about evolution in the proper way,
Huh,
or like,
really?
or biology in the proper sense. Yeah, like it's already been set up where the
So you don't
advertising
have to
is set up
specify
for it.
non-secular is already in the phrase.
John Richards, what do you
Here's
think?
what you should do. You should go
Talk
to
to me.
a British website and get your biology books from there. Because I could send you biology books that are not polluted by any religion.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay, well, there's a resource. We're going to touch back on that. So what I was thinking is like, okay, let me look what I did when I was in grad school. When I was in grad school, I found a website that not only had basically open source textbooks, but they were all gate kept in a sense, or like maintained by scholars in the field who weren't privy to, you know, religious dogma infiltrating the manner of what they're teaching.
Yeah.
And because it's open source, it gets easily fact checked every single time. It's
Yeah.
updated on a yearly basis. And I want to introduce what that show is. John Richards, I see your finger. What's up? What do you got?
Well, the trouble is, you see, if
Hmm.
American children are brought up learning proper biology, you know, like from British biology books, when they come to do the exam, which is American Christian biology, they'll fail.
Okay, so you're saying that the dangers of using a British textbook is that when they take an American test, they'd fail?
Yes.
They're not going to learn about creationism and intelligent design.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
so thankfully, the concern I have, it's never gotten that bad. It's never gone that bad in the sense where you are properly taught biology and you take a class at a school that's so steeped in religion that if you espouse the three pillars or the three laws of biology, which include evolution, you'd fail it. It hasn't
Yeah,
gone that bad in my experience.
Usually the tests
opposite.
come from the state level or the federal level, but I'd say state mostly. And
It's the
those
opposite.
are not generally religious
Right.
oriented.
Good.
It's the opposite that happens. It's where you have a kid who's only taught the religious version of biology, who gets into an actual school that's
Yeah.
like, so tell me about evolution, and they're completely unequipped to be able to pass that class.
Yeah.
And either through some very extravagant persuasion among their fellow students to just copy homework or tests or whatever, just to pass as any way they possibly can and get the degree anyway. And then they're like, yeah, I know biology, I have this degree. It's like, yeah, but you were never taught the real thing. It's like, yeah, but I got the degree. It's like, that doesn't mean anything if you can't demonstrate that you actually understand the tenets that you're talking about.
Did you get it from Liberty University?
Yeah. And it's like, I went to a Christian college. It's like, yeah, you weren't actually going to an actual college, unfortunately.
No.
When it comes to science, it's
Not
unfortunate.
accredited.
But if you go to like any other legitimate standardized school that gets like federal funding college, for the most part, you have to know the actual biology. And so the class that the resource that I'd like to recommend to everybody is a website called openstax.org. That's openstax.org. And what this website is a really, really cool thing. It's basically any collegiate level or high school level textbook on any subject: astrophysics, molecular biology, rocket science. They have books on that. Chemistry, AP chemistry, philosophy, like mechanical engineering, paper making. Like they have a resource on every book written by people who understand the science of it and are not persuaded by religious dogma. You can search through the books. You can download them as PDFs. You can have access to them on the website. You can search for them in any way or capacity you want. You can share them. They're free for you to distribute as you need to. And it's given out by a university by name, I think it's Rice University is the one that distributes them as part of their curriculum to say, hey, you don't have to buy textbooks to get an education. In fact, we want to make sure that they're available to anyone who wants to pass our class. So if you go to our university, the textbooks are already online. You can use those as a resource, and they're always available to you. And you don't have to carry around a backpack full of them. They're just always available with you. And I love that open door philosophy to accessible education, because now I feel like on my free time, I just want to check out this website, see which books are available, and actually read and try to learn more about areas of science that I don't have as much knowledge in. It's just a wonderful thing. Openstacks.org.
Yeah.
John Richards, did you have any comments or thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's utterly admirable. This Rice University initiative, because it's my contention that education should be free for everyone.
Yep.
And that it should also be free of religious taint.
Good points. Two good points I support fully, honestly. It's just a wonderful thing.
You
I'm
see,
looking over the go for it,
there's,
go for it.
there's two schools of thought about the possession of knowledge. There's the lawyer school of thought. Now, I've got friends who are lawyers, so I'm not knocking them as people, but the mentality of a lawyer is, I have access to privileged knowledge, and I can earn this guy's money by applying it. He can't do it himself because he doesn't have my knowledge. Whereas I'm a teacher, and my attitude is, I have access to privileged knowledge. I want to give it to you.
Yeah.
I want to give it away, right?
Mhm.
I also have the idea that not all textbooks were written equally. And even if you are reading even if you did purchase or were required to get a required textbook for a class that was like terrible, because I've picked up terrible textbooks before that were just horribly written, because they're probably written by the professor who's just trying to make extra money by making that book required for his class. It's nice to have a supplemental resource that cares about the material well enough to explain it in a different way that could be a useful supplemental approach to understanding it. And the cool thing is, if I have a bad textbook that's trying to teach me calculus, and I have this free resource that's trying to teach me calculus, as long as I understand calculus, I'm set up to pass whatever demonstration and test there is, because that's how science works. It's about not the resource that you get it from, it's about the demonstration of the knowledge and the tenets that you have. That's what you're testing. And so it's just
I have been toying with the idea of trying to make it over to Finland to work on my doctorate, because they will pay me to go to school. School is free, books are free. They will give me a stipend to live on, and I can stay there 6 years.
Isn't that for citizens only, though?
No, anyone at all.
Well,
You can get
let's go.
accepted.
Yeah, that's some Apple money right there.
Yeah,
It's
there's,
like, oh, thank you.
there's another advantage to that idea. It's because you'll be finished before you started.
Oh no. All right, so Larry, hot seat. What recommendations would you have for anyone who's looking for a reasonable, credible source of education? Is there anywhere I can go that's ideally free?
Well, OpenStax, I just learned about that a minute ago. No, not this week because of you, but I don't know of any other free textbooks online.
Doesn't even have to be a textbook. Like, for example, you do data analysis, you've done a lot of work for the Navy. Like, is there a resource that you relied on to help you get through that had been useful for you, that maybe even accessible online?
Well, when I was in the Navy, the only resource was the library. We didn't have the internet.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Knoxlive.org is ours.
Yeah.
On the internet now. But
So
go to the library.
Yeah, you hit the point on the head, because when I was in Knoxville has a great library. The books can be checked out online or in person, and you have them for a period of time, but you can also just recheck them back out again. And so if you have a phone, you have access to basically an entire library in Knoxville. You don't even have to live in Knoxville to get Knoxville's library going on. So libraries are great resources for getting a bunch of information, in my opinion. And when they've functionalized themselves to online services where you can access everything from like a phone, there's fewer excuses not to properly get yourself educated. What's up, John Richards?
Well, I'm worried about the availability of non-biased scientific material in America. Do you think that when you put in the search string, whatever it was that you wanted for a biology book that wasn't Christian,
right?
Do you think that you're fighting Google? I mean, Google is there to make money, and it wants to sell stuff, so it's got to have the most popular stuff at the top.
Yep.
So, do you think Google is actually on the side of the theists, And I'm worried about that because over here, we got Google too. So we may be suffering from your algorithms.
So while I do feel like when you do searches, Google's in the business of making money at the end of the day, right? And so if I'm making a religiously minded biology textbook that is not secular, and I'm going to put it on the internet for people to find, right? I'm not going to just put, hey, fellow Christians, this is your best book. I'm going to try to muddy the water and put some search terms in there that atheists are going to trip over. And maybe then that's how we get more people into reading our textbooks. And then I'll just give the money to Google, and Google's like, thank you for the money. Here's your placement on our ad listings, right? It goes a long way for us to recognize that you don't get a good education by mistake. You have to search for it. And when it comes to developing like these good skill sets for like questioning things, even when you have a good education, you also have to like question the sources and the manner in which you get these things too. So John Richards is a really good point, but like it's less of an education, more of a lifestyle skepticism. And it's really important for us to remember that you can't necessarily read a textbook and understand how to understand things. You just have textbooks to inform yourself, but it's still up to you to ask questions, even from the resources that you get. So even when you open up OpenStax, this is what I like about OpenStax. Say I want to check out a biology textbook. There's a search bar at the top when I open up Biology 1 or Biology 2. I can search through every single utterance or incident of any word, and I can search for God, and I see what the options are, and it's talking about like the Quetzalcoatl. Like some people had beliefs on Aztec gods, but it's not talking about religious gods or like the Christian gods. I'm just like, that's nice. Like you're informing me on some stuff. I'll type in creator, I'll type in design. I'll look for words that I'm used to seeing correlated to religion in textbooks on strictly science basis. And I found that like, oh, I'm not seeing any red flags here. This is really great. I'm searching for it myself. I'm not just relying on the reviews and the 5-star number to get it for me. I can do that research myself. And then at that point, I'm in a position where I feel like I'm comfortable enough with this that I would recommend it to someone else. And so I did make that recommendation to the coworker that we had at our job, and she was really happy about it. And it's free. And if it's wrong, I'm willing to recommend something else, and that'll be another show in the future. But I would recommend that anyone who's interested in available textbooks that are good for you, check out your local library if they're online. Check out the Knoxville library if they aren't, because the one in Knoxville, Tennessee is particularly good. And then openstax.org for just, hey, I just want to learn some subjects for my free time.
Did you say it OpenStax is PDF files?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but they're just website accessible. So you can just go through them and search them there. They have there's also YouTube classes as well if you want to be able to see. When I was in meteorology classes when in grad school, I found that Georgia Tech offers some classes just straight up through YouTube. Like you can find those classes on YouTube and just day by day watch each lecture on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis as you want to at your own leisure. I'm also, for example, really invested in learning or refreshing my ability to use sign language. And I know that's a little bit off topic, but deaf people are, oh man, don't clip this, but deaf people don't have access to a lot of other people to talk to. And it tends to be the case that they congregate at churches. So like a lot of the terminology that you use and a lot of the people that you meet in deaf communities are very religious. And there's not a lot of deaf atheists as a result, or ones that are willing to speak out. And so when I'm an atheist and I don't want to go to church, I've cut off my access to a lot of deaf community people that I can speak to.
I actually know 2 deaf atheists here in
Good for
San
you.
Antonio.
Fantastic. It's not the majority, but I consider my mom not a deaf atheist, but at least someone who is open to the idea of atheism and is okay with her son being one. But if I want to talk to deaf people and it's not on religious boundaries, right? I need a way to be able to do that. And I found like YouTube has been a good way for me to both look at someone's sign and learn new words. But there's also like Zoom meetings where you'll have conversations with deaf people as well. And that's a good way for me to reach out. But yeah, you have resources online is basically what I'm saying, where you can get really good access to information. I got library from Larry. I got OpenStax from me. John Richards, you were telling us about this British website that we can go to get textbooks. Is there what would you recommend?
Well, I wish you'd asked me earlier. I could have researched this, but I'm sure if you go to Oxford Books, for example, or maybe Cambridge or University Bookshop or something, maybe one of the London bookstores. I can't think of the names of them now. A long time since I've been to a London bookstore. Took my daughter a few years ago, but they have, decent resources. We don't carry off pandas and people because
Okay, good.
we have the real thing.
Nice. And the main thing I wanted to say before we go out to a break is that you have a right to religion, whether, in my opinion, whether people say you do or you don't. But it needs to be exercised through a willingness to actually get it, right? And what I find religion is very good at is making you believe that you already have the answers such that you don't need to get the education.
Yeah.
And so one of the most biggest dangers you can have is feeling like you already know what all the dangers are.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, it's a willingness to understand that you don't know everything that pulls you towards trying to learn. And if there's anything that I like to foster as a main point in this conversation is that it is so worthwhile to always be in a state where you're learning new things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's nothing worse
Absolutely.
stayed mindset, particularly one that feels like it's already satisfied, because we live in a very, very complicated world that's always changing.
I talked recently with a lady and she asked what I did, and I said, I'm a scholar. And she asked me to elaborate, and being a scholar is not a thing, it's a lifestyle. You're always trying to learn. The quote I like that I see as a meme once in a while is science is the quest for answers, religion is thinking you already have them.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is in a nutshell. Though I would be nice when we come back to the show, what we would do to tweak secular education. Maybe there's some better routes that we can go with even that. Because, if we're open to changing and learning new things, what could secular education learn from that? We'll handle that in the second half of the show. After some listener comments, we got a bunch from Data's Trading Room. Anyway,
Right.
Larry, feel free to take us out.
Stay tuned for the second half of the Digital Free Thought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio, 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We'll be right back after this short break.
Pausing the recording, going to...
Welcome back to the Digital Free Thought Radio Hour, second half. I'm Dr. 5, and we're on WOZO Radio, 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's take just a moment to talk about the Atheist Society of Knoxville. ASK was founded in 2002, which puts us in our 20th year.
Wow.
We have over 1,000 members. We have weekly in-person meetings at Knoxville's Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the evening, starting at around 5:30 and going to about 8 o'clock. We also have Zoom meetings, and you can find us by getting the link from us by sending us an email. Send us an email at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or by emailing let's chat se@gmail.com. You can also find ASK on Facebook, meetup.com, or their website, knoxvilleatheist.org. Or you can just Google Knoxville Atheist, it'll bring it up. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you should still go to Meetup and do a search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one, start one. That's right. Wombat, where do you want to pick up?
So we were lauding the value of being able to get quality education untainted by the hands of religious dogma. I recommended openstax.org. It's accessible to you. Check it out. Offered by Rice University. Wonderful resources of textbooks that are available to you right now to learn about almost any subject that you want. And it's not a Wikipedia article where it's just, internet trolls trying to one-up each other with very obtuse verbiage. It's actual textbook that'll teach you things. And it's a resource that I would recommend that you check out. Larry Rhodes recommended the Knoxville Library System. You can Google that. They have most of their books available online. You can check them out. You can turn them back in. You can check them out immediately afterwards. It's digital files. I don't know why libraries still do that, but hey, it's what it is. Anyway, you can also go there in person and check that out. John Richards, would you mind popping some of your recommendations before we move on?
Yeah, sure. I looked up a couple of London bookstores which are famous for students to go and get their resources from, and have a very good science department. One's called Foyles, and I don't know, it's got about 7 floors, and the other one's called Dillon's, and that's very near to the British Museum. And
Wow.
I thoroughly recommend both of those, and I'm sure they've got websites. You can order stuff online and have it shipped to you. But also, if you want to avoid the taint of commerce, which often comes with a Christian bias, and you want to do searching, why not try not Google, but Bing or DuckDuckGo?
Yeah, nice. Good recommendations. You know, I have this weird thing. John Richards, are you aware of the blowback that happened in America to Harry Potter when it came over to US? When Christian parents were like, my kids are reading about what? Witchcraft?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? Dude, that colored my whole childhood for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the trouble is, you Americans have been Disneyfied, and some of you have difficulty distinguishing imaginary from reality.
I remember that as a Christian thinking back in the time, thinking it's not real magic. There's no real such thing as witchcraft. Though. But
Yes.
and then like the ardent parents being like, but there is a real thing, and this book is trying to teach my kid to be a wizard. He's putting little signias on their foreheads and stuff.
And I saw it on a screen, and they did play Quidditch, and there was
magic tricks.
Yeah. If you go to King's Cross Station, which is just up the road a bit from behind where I'm sat at the moment, allegedly, then there is actually a platform 9A, which is actually, it's a brick wall, you know, because that's what Harry Potter runs at with his suitcase on a trolley.
Sure.
And it's got platform 9A written above it, and there's a half trolley that's stuck in this wall as though it's going through it. And you can stand there holding the trolley, looking and getting photographed.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Your memento of Harry Potter.
Very cool. Sky, you recommended we all move to Finland and get that free education.
Let me recommend something else.
Cool.
We have in New York City, we have the largest used bookstore in the world. It's called The Strand. They have over 1 million titles, including textbooks of all kinds.
Nice.
If you go online and find a book you want, Google The Strand, get the phone number, call them, and dimes to donuts, they're going to have that book, and it'll be a lot cheaper than getting a new one.
Very true. I like it. Hey, Blair Rhodes, what do you got? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
Sorry, this radio station, and it's publicly owned, well, privately owned, but still we need to worry about commerce. We don't need to be doing advertisements for commercial entities per se, especially we don't want to say go there or do something. So, but we can certainly recommend something if we like it, but that's about it.
Okay, strong recommendations. So Finland or New York from Sky. We got Knoxville Library, free, not a commerce site. We got Dillon's and a 7-story building of books. Imagine how many floors are dedicated to just talking and like arguing with people who cook food too powerly. I want to know how many aisles that is. It's like, you overburned the crumpets, Mary. That's aisle 7. That's aisle 7. And then the scrumpets are on aisle 4. But I would also say, hey, OpenStax, check it out. It's good. What we're going to be talking about right now is some listener feedback comments. Thank you guys so much for leaving comments. Data's Trading Room, you left us so many comments, so I'm going to go over them. First comment is from Abby Kane, who on our last episode, or the last episode I was on, called UFOs, Loch Ness, and Bigfoot. Oh my! Abby Kane had a point that she'd like to make, or he'd like to make, that I think works pretty well. It's in reference to when we were talking about the idea that if humans were to go to another planet to understand how, you know, it operated, or if alien life came to us, we'd have to worry about potentially affecting the life there inadvertently by the fact that we have a bunch of bacterium or viruses on us that might affect the life forms on the planet that we're trying to study. And Ap Kane says, I'm going to slightly disagree with the dangers of a virus. The analogy would be better if every time humans go in the ocean, we have a chance of infecting prawns with human diseases. For us to infect the aliens and vice versa, there would need to be more genetic similarities than life on Earth has. That isn't always the case, since some diseases can jump species, but it's a larger barrier than some people take into consideration. We'll do a roundtable. What do you guys think about that? What do you think?
Well, I think that may be true for virus. That definitely uses the chromosomes and the engine of your cell to reproduce. But for bacteria, I don't think it would matter much. We got a bacteria on Earth that will eat pretty much anything, including nylon and plastics. They will adapt. They will evolve to eat anything. So
it'd just be another competitor on that
right.
list.
Eating microbes loose in the ocean.
Sure.
Sorry.
Go on
I
ahead.
said,
Say it.
why aren't we letting these plastic eating microbes loose in the ocean?
Right. We're trying to. There's just the rate of consumption is pretty low, but we're making them faster slowly in Japan at least. Yeah, I do agree that maybe we stretch the analogy too far when we use viruses, because that is making use of a cell. Though, just gonna round this out, why risk it? Wouldn't it be a terrible thing if we get onto a planet and it turns out for genetics to work, it kind of has to work in this very tight window, which is the one that we're experiencing now. So it's that if we have a bunch of viruses that we've gotten very good at fighting off, but could potentially infect life with a carbon-based similarity to us, maybe that could be a thing. But why? Like, if we here's my final point. If we see a beautiful new planet, that doesn't mean we should take our garbage there. Let's just enjoy the fact that we can observe it from a distance and learn how everything works without us being like, yeah, let's bring country music over and like a bunch of AA batteries and like let's go Nick signs. It's like, dude, those are cultural viruses. Let's also throw those into the trunk or the boot, if you will, and just enjoy the new life as we see it. Larry Rose, what do you got?
Well, I think I take exception to that, because like in Mars, we've pretty much determined there's no indigenous life there. We've sent all kinds of probes and dug in the earth and flown over and all that. I think now is the time to start terraforming. We need to, like Carl Sagan said back in the 70s, I think it was, we could send some moss and lichens that live in extreme temperatures and drop them on the surface, and they can then start using the carbon dioxide and what little sunlight they have to terraform the surface for us, and they make their own copies. So that kind of thing I think we could do. Now, as far as just finding a new planet and not taking any steps to make sure it had indigenous life, we need to do that, of course. But there's a point where we're going to run out of room here, right? Resources or whatever, especially the way we're multiplying. We do need other places to go. If we don't, we're doomed.
Or also learn how to get our stuff together here on Earth, because I feel like if we
don't think that, that's even if we got our stuff together the way that we're advancing in medicine and repopulating or doubling our population, it's only a matter of time. We can only push that time out so far. We either need to expand or perish eventually. And it may be a way down the road, but that's where it's going to come to.
John Richards, what do you got?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to flit to another planet, but I don't think that there's much of a prospect of terraforming Mars. I think we're going to always have to live either underground or under glass domes or something, because it's not big enough to have sufficient gravity to hang on to an atmosphere of any pressure.
Well, it does have an atmosphere, but of course there's not much pressure to it. But I agree. That's a tough one.
I also feel like if we do go to a planet with indigenous life, let's take some of the lessons we've learned with how humans have reached other indigenous populations and not repeat those same mistakes. I feel like we should really understand that the manifest destiny philosophy that we use here is not good long term. and probably shouldn't be something that we should take into space. If we find an abandoned planet that we can make use of, great. But if there's already intelligent life there, which I feel like is some of the things that Abby Kane was probably referring to, maybe a long distance communication setup would be much more sufficient, rather than being like, hey, we got billions and billions of people over here, we're gonna have to put some of them here. That's like, oh, okay, we'll just point the cannons towards wherever
Yeah.
those are coming in from. You got a problem, you can fix it. That's not our problem.
Right.
You got an overpopulation problem. That's
Yeah.
a significant problem. We figured that out already.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Joe Sky, did you have any thoughts on that you'd like to throw?
Go ahead.
All right. So Data's Trading Room wanted to make a comment on the episode called Jesus Units. Jesus Units being what if we had a number that was a reference to everything that we were aware of throughout the time that Jesus was walking around, and how would that number change over a period of time? And let's see, we're talking about nuance and details at great length, and Data's Trading Room says, speaking about the devil in details, everybody's speaking about evidence for the resurrection. Can anyone show any evidence that Jesus actually died, and how would anybody know that? And so it sort of feeds into the idea of like, hey, a Jesus unit, why even call it after Jesus in the first place? Doesn't that like laud the idea that he was a person who resurrected?
He actually
Who resurrected? Why are we focusing on just Jesus?
And what kind of evidence do we have? I mean, they say there is evidence, but I mean, stories aren't evidence,
Right.
especially anecdotal stories from 2,000 years ago when everybody was supernatural or thought things were supernatural or real.
Right.
I mean, it makes no sense that they would call it evidence when it isn't.
The weird thing too is we have examples of people who were medically dead and brought back, but no one talks about them anymore. We're still making a big deal about Jesus, where it's just like there are people who have been, for a couple of seconds or even for like a period of time, like flatline dead, not brain activity dead. Obviously,
Right.
That's a completely different thing. But like there are people who've been resuscitated, but no Christians are like, tell me everything. It's like, oh, I didn't see anything. It's like, okay, you're done. See you. Go out the door. You're good. It's like,
Well, there was a little boy. There was a boy who wrote a book about going to heaven when he died on the table, and then later recanted that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
little boys can't write books that well. It was his parents. Have you seen the
Right.
nature of that book? It's
Yeah.
like, long ago in the grand annals of my youth. It's like 8-year-olds don't talk like that.
Mm.
Like, I know you didn't write this book. And he has to apologize that he wrote that book. His parents are just setting him up for failure. I just feel really bad about that.
Yeah.
John
Did he
Richards,
give-
I see the gleam in your eye.
Did he give the money back?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we're going to another comment from Data's Trading Room on UFOs, Loch Ness Monster, and Bigfoot. Oh my! I have seen a UFO, and I wasn't alone. We were a bunch of young guys just after a game of soccer, and we were dressing up, just about to go home. It was still daylight, though. Just after sunset, we saw a bright object silently moving up high into the sky. One of those cigar-like fiery UFOs leaving a tail behind it. It was in the newspapers the following morning. It was fascinating. We all watched it in silence as if mesmerized. It was only quite recent that I learned about bolides, which, if traveling at high enough speed, will not. How do you pronounce that?
Bolides.
Bolides. Okay, which
And how
if
do you
traveling
spell
at
it?
Bolides.
Okay, thanks.
Bolides, which if traveling at high enough speed will not fall onto the surface, but simply continue going on just through Earth's atmosphere. So he did see a UFO, and I think we said in the show, I think I support what UFO sightings. I support those entirely because I've seen weird things like rings of light specks in the sky, only to realize that I just didn't have enough information to recognize what that thing was. So it's just an unidentified object that's in the sky.
Right.
That's all it is.
UFOs, unidentified objects. That's right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's aliens.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's alien. Doesn't mean it's a religious thing. Doesn't mean it's Jesus still coming back being like, oh, I left my sandals. I left my sandals, guys. I need to pick them up and go back up again. But UFOs, absolutely. That's just a recognition of, hey, there's something I can't recognize. Let's not weaponize ignorance for dogma, or for conclusions that we can't support. And so I support UFOs. In fact, I support UFOs more than I do Bigfoot or Loch Ness in terms of actual existence. I fully sign up to those conventions, but I don't tie them to any sort of conclusive proof or anything. John Richards, what do you think?
Well, what you mean is that there are unidentified things flying through the air. That doesn't mean that they've
Right.
come from anywhere.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we just can't identify them. That's all. And they're probably balloons or lightning balls or something. What did you call them? Bolides. Yes. But you'll be pleased to hear that Hollywood being Hollywood, the little boy who went to heaven and came back is now a movie.
Oh, great.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter to them if it was false, as long as they can just pass it on as truth. And
Like
people,
Conversation with God became a movie.
It's called Heaven is for Real, and it was released way back in 2014.
Same kid? Oh man, what is going on here?
His name is Colton Burpo.
Burpo, nice.
Yeah, yes.
We got guys, we got so many comments. We got another comment from Anonymous. He had a issue with my last episode, UFOs, Loch Ness, and Bigfoot. Oh my. He said he has umbrage with Dread. I wish he was on the show, but maybe we can handle it for him. I don't know where you got that idea from, Dread, about quantum communication. You are completely wrong. There is no such thing as quantum communication. Entanglement cannot be used for communication purposes, and you can check out any quantum physicist about that. By the way, you should stop listening to Michio Kaku. That guy is a total mythicist.
really?
They're right about that. Yes, he's the same. He's trading on his previous reputation as a serious scientist to make a lot of money by speculating in ways that he knows the audience wants to hear.
It's a very lucrative market. It's a very lucrative market of I'm an established smart person. Now it's talking nonsense that nonsense people can listen to him and actually think that I'm, by association of my academic career, I'm also smart too now.
Nonetheless, he is a cultural hero in Japan.
No doubt.
No
doubt. I'm not saying fire isn't hot. I'm just saying like it could be used for really bad things. So I also feel like I don't want to get into this too much in physics, but if you read OpenStax, go to OpenStax, you'll find that communication has speed limits. And if we're talking about going faster than the speed of light, you may not necessarily be talking about information in that sense. And there's a lot of things that appear to be moving faster than the speed of light that have information associated with it that are factually not packets of communicative information. It's an interesting thing. There's some models. I'll do a quick one. We got 10 minutes before the end of the show. So like if I have like a pair of scissors and a really bright flashlight, right? And I close those scissors in front of the flashlight and I shine that bright flashlight on the moon such that I can actually see the scissors move on the surface of the moon. It's like, oh, I'm seeing the shadow of my scissors that are only moving like 2 inches move hundreds of miles on the surface of the moon. It's almost as if the tips of the scissors on that shadow is so much moving faster to the point where if I had a bright enough flashlight, I might even be able to make those tips of those scissors move faster than the speed of light. But it's not true motion that's going faster. It's just the packets of light that are hitting the scissors are going out in an array, and you're seeing a delayed response that's just in a stacked order. So it's not like the scissors are actually moving faster. You're just seeing a bunch of shadow moving through space and hitting an array on the light on the sun. If I'm not making this analogy absolutely clear, the main thing is light. It's a difficult thing to describe why information is locked to a very specific speed. And because of that, we can't say, oh, quantum entanglement will solve that. It's just another field of physics that we're understanding that doesn't have the power to resolve some of the known limits that we understand about science. It's just another thing that we can learn about, or another model of science that doesn't necessarily upend or resolve a lot of other issues that we're getting in other places.
What you've just done is explained that shadow, in other words, the speed of dark, is the speed of light.
Yes. All communication tends to be limited by the speed of dark or the speed of light. Gravity is the same way too. It's literally the same speed, because that's the fastest anything that is a thing can move through space. And you can't make communication travel faster than that. That's
unless unless,
Larry is getting back into it. Unless if you had what? A what?
if, well, you know Morse code,
I know Morse code.
dits and dots,
I'm aware of
right?
it. Yeah,
On
yeah,
and
yeah.
off. Well, if you had two quantumly linked elemental particles that were, hundreds of light years apart, and you switched one, wouldn't the other immediately switch?
So
So-
the only problem with that is like the model has been explained so abstractly or empirically that people think that that's a thing. It's like when people say, so, well, this string theory is just 2 points that are connected very far apart. The model isn't saying that all atoms are actually strings. It's just a model to explain how a different way of looking at
No, I'm not talking about
concept.
string theory at all. I'm just talking about two quantumly tangled elemental particles. They're supposed to be quantumly linked so that if you switch one, if you flip one, the other would flip immediately. At least that's the way I understand. So listeners, if you have a better understanding than that, then let me know and tell me about it in the comments. But it's my understanding that if they could do that and they flip instantly, then you could almost use it like a computer code, zeros and ones, or Morse code or something to be able to pass information faster than the speed of light.
Sure.
Comment back.
The only thing I'd say on top of that is the outlining of a scientific model is not necessarily demonstration that it actually exists. It's just a way of thinking. So like if I made a Google Maps that showed me the route to McDonald's, it's a flat earth model that it's taking me to McDonald's, and it's estimating it's take 20 minutes, but it's a line on a flat line. We know the earth has curvature to it, but it's just a nominal useful model to explain how long it's going to take me to get from here to McDonald's. It doesn't have to account for the
Sure,
curvature.
I understand.
Same thing with quantum entangled. It will simplify some things, but
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it actually is or operates. It's just a way of thinking about stuff that makes things easier to understand as a model. John Richards.
Quantum mechanics is a very thoroughly supported theory. And according to our current understanding of it, what Larry says is correct, but it's still in the realm of theory. And
it's very
I'm not going to
counterintuitive.
believe it until it's been demonstrated in practice. I want to see the second part of the job of discovery performed, because coming up with an idea is one thing, but testing it against the natural realm is something else.
Yeah.
And this hasn't been done yet, and it will be enormously difficult to do. I mean, how are you going to get one half of an entangled pair thousands of miles or hundreds of thousands of miles
light years?
Yes.
And how would you then know that it flipped instantly?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we're getting down to the top of the hour. Anybody have any last words?
Yeah, I'll do one more from Dada's Trading Room because he has so many, and I think we should probably do the rest of them in future shows. But all right, so and finally, we mentioned Aaron Ra on the show. He says there is no missing link. That's not how evolution works. Someone may have mentioned, or we may have been talking about evolution. Check out Aaron Ra about that one. And it's not your anus, it's Uranus. Accent on the Ra, same as in Aaron Ra. So yeah.
Uranus.
Yeah. Uranus. There it is.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for me.
I would like to say something real quick about
Go
a
for it.
topic we didn't get to, which was tweaking education. I think the most important thing we should be teaching in our schools that we aren't is critical thinking. It should be part of every curriculum.
Yeah.
It should be in every curriculum.
Right. I agree. John Richards.
Our kids are dumb. I mean, really, our kids are dumb.
A friend of mine, Dr. Stephen Law, philosopher, editor of Think! One of the magazines of the Philosophy Society of the UK, has got a critical thinking course, which is available to purchase for a very modest fee online. So I would recommend that.
Very cool. Last words, Ty.
The more we understand any scientific model, atomic theory to like gravity or anything like that, we also have to remember that we're open to changing it as we learn more information. As we talk about space travel, or as we talk about science who may even take place on different planets or in different planetary or physics systems in the universe, we might learn more about the models that we're using. And that might mean that we have to continue to ask questions about the theories that we're employing and practicing. So the same thing with biology or OpenStax or any of the resources that we talked about today. Be willing to change on a dime in the face of better evidence whenever that comes about. And understand that the models that we come up with are simply just models that helps us understand reality, aren't necessarily reality themselves.
Can I plug my next show?
Go for it.
Because next week in my Free Thought Hour, I have got Chet Anderson, who is a philosopher of enormous brain power. I'm going to have to, I don't know, take drugs or something to keep up.
Well, good luck.
Yeah,
Ask
that's
me.
Free Thought Hour on Free Thought Channel.
Very cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the comments. Feel free to leave more. We're going to go through them all. I guarantee you it.
Very good. And my content and this show can be found at digitalfreethought.com. Be sure to click on the blog button for our radio show archives, atheist songs, and many articles on the subject. If you have any questions for the show, send them to askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or let'schatse.gmail.com, or just leave a comment. If you're having trouble with religious beliefs, you can get help recovering from religion at recoveringfromreligion.org. You can find this show on podcasts everywhere. Just search for Digital Free Thought Radio Hour. Remember, everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life, and we'll see you next week. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.